So here I'm in pretty much the same app that Matt has used multiple times. It's just this lease management app that he's had. I figured I would still use this because if you were here a couple of weeks ago for office hours, maybe a couple months, we did go over setting up QB maps and kind of the different things that can be done with it. And I did use this app for that. So I figured I would still use this app and show you some of the things that I've changed and added just to show these different use cases. So I guess just as a quick refresher, if you remember from last time, if you were here, I added this property map where when I clicked on it, it showed all of the properties from a specific table. So just a quick click of this, we can see a map with all the different locations. So this is just a typical use case for QB maps of showing the records. But I did set up a couple of different ones to better explain all of this. So this was just what we had from last time. But the first one that I really wanted to show you was this store map here. So pretty much I created a new table in here called stores. And pretty much we just put it in with some Chick-fil-A restaurants, pretty much. And here we just have the actual location of them. And we have some information for them as well, such as the hours, the days that they're open, and things like who the manager is of these stores. So pretty basic information just to show it off to you guys, but just to show this map for you, all I'll have to do is just click this store map. And here now you can see I set it up. So now I'm pretty much able to see all the stores from that table. We have the legend here. So we're showing, okay, this blue J is where James Malone, myself, is the manager. The green M is when Matt's the manager. And this purple O here is showing when Joe Manager is the manager. Just a random name for that. And kind of like we showed before, when you click on these records, it'll give you a little bit of information about it. So here we're displaying pretty much the name for it. So here we know, okay, this is the Farmingdale store that we have. The manager is James. Here's the store hours and the days that it's open, as well as the address. So it's a good way just to get a quick little bit of information. And something else that can be used with this, just to get a quick bit of information, if you know pretty much what the name is or maybe what the address is, you can quickly look it up in this section to the left here with the location list. So for example, if I wanted to check on this Huntington store and see what was the store hours for that, I'll be able to click on this. Takes me right to it. I can see where it is. And I can see all of that information that I had. We do also have here this click to view, a nice little way just to go straight to that record right in Quickbase. So if you did have more information, like maybe you had related employees, you could show that here on this report, on this record, pretty much all of the normal information that you can display within Quickbase, because this is now right back in Quickbase. So this is typically just a common but very simple and straightforward use case for a lot of our clients. Just a way to show their stores, where their jobs are, if they have specific jobs, at different locations that they need to work on.
Right.
And
I was thinking, James, with job site locations, just to see all active jobs. And stuff.
Yeah, that's another big one where you have these different locations where you're going out to actually work on all of that.
Right. And James, forgive me if I'm interrupting your workflow, but when you click on, let's say, my legend for like the Hotbog location, one of the pins.
Yeah.
That information, those are just fields from Quickbase. Can you use any field you have in Quickbase?
So yes, you could use any field. So here, most of these are just text fields that I've got displayed here.
Right.
But you could use pretty much any of them. I think the only one that wouldn't work would be file attachment.
Okay.
But if, for example, your file attachment has an image in it, you could actually set up a formula rich text field that's able to display that image And if you use that as one of these fields here, you'll be able to display that. So for example, if you had
Web not provided.
the front of the store, you would be able to display that as like an image here.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll have to write that one down for another time because that's a great use case as well. But,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, so this definitely was a very straightforward use case. The next one that I have is going to be a little bit more complex with a little bit of oddities to it. I'll point something out with this one just at the moment, just so that we remember this for the next one. But here, pretty much we're using this address field that we have. We're using that to find the location and put it on this map for pretty much all of these pins here. But we don't necessarily have to do that. There are other ways we can display pretty much a pin on here with, even if you don't have the whole address. So pretty much this next map I'm going to show you is this pole map. Some of our clients use it to our QB Maps add-on to show the actual electric poles that they have to work on, the ones that you drive by on the street all the time and see.
Right.
So I made another table for this. Just called it electric poles. And for this one, a lot of the times the electric poles don't have an actual street address. They just have a latitude and longitude that are just pretty much exactly where that pole is. And since you don't have an actual address, it can be a little bit weird sometimes to try to put this on a map, but we are able to use just the latitude and longitude to set this up. So as you can see here, there's actually no address written anywhere. It's just this latitude and longitude field. Some of the other fields that I have on here is just like the due date, a status of if it needs repair or replacement. There's also another status that says fixed. Here we have the different types of poles: wooden, steel, concrete. The company that owns those poles. So just typical information that you might have for an electric pole. There's also probably a ton of other information that you would have with this, but this is just a quick way to show you how you could potentially display this. So once again, I go back to this QB Maps table, and pretty much this button here is going to be using now these two values instead of the values that I put in for that store map. Pretty much just telling it to use, okay, a different table and pull in some different fields because it is a different table. So if I click on this here for the pole map, now you're going to see here, pretty much we have a bunch of poles here on Long Island. One that's closer to New York City, and then another one that's all the way on the other end at Montauk. There's a whole bunch here. And as you can see too, we have in the legend again, we have a specific one for wood, another one for steel, and another one for concrete. So this is a good way just for your employees or whoever may be using this map, just to get a quick eye glance pretty much to know, okay, here we have some wooden ones and we have a concrete one over here. So if your employee is going to be doing a job, they know right away, okay, I need certain materials and equipment to work with a steel pole as opposed to a wooden pole. And they're able to quickly know, all right, that's what I need for this job today.
And then also, if you don't mind me chiming in, this gives real good visibility if you're trying to actually schedule jobs in advance. It kind of gives you an idea as to when you could be putting certain jobs on certain days and things like that, correct? Don't we have someone that uses it for that? I don't want to drop the name of the company, but
yeah. Honestly, we have a number of clients who use it for that. So they'll see kind of like in this area, okay, there's a number over here that are all close together. We'll schedule those for maybe the same employee or whoever to go out there and do all of these together, as opposed to maybe doing one here, doing one over here, and then doing the other one all the way in Montauk, because when it's all just addresses, you don't really have a good idea of what's next to each other.
Right.
So this actually does lead into kind of the next way to display this. We're still going to be using this map here, where we're displaying all of the polls, but we're going to be using another feature, our radius feature, which will run from the employees table that I also set up. So if I open this up, you'll see there's only 2 employees here, Matt and myself again. But here we have this generate map. So now this is obviously in a different table than the QB Maps one that we had been running it from. But this will actually allow us to display the employee that we're running it from, as well as the electric poles that we were pretty much just viewing. So I think what I'll actually do, I'll generate the map for Matt. So now when we display this, I put in a couple of things here, but you might notice the first thing is that it's very zoomed in. That's actually just because if we zoom back out, you notice that those other pins aren't there anymore. So with that radius feature that I mentioned, pretty much we're able to say, okay, since we're starting from this new pin that showed up, which is this employee pin, as you can tell by the legend, only show the pins from the electric pole table that are within a certain number of miles. So I think in this case, I actually put it to 5. So it's only going to be showing the ones that are in 5 miles. If it's outside of that, those just won't be shown. Because if you think about it, if Matt's going to go on a job for today or at some point in the future, we're probably not going to be sending him all the way to New York City from out here. There's probably going to be another employee that's closer to that spot that would be a better fit for that job. The other thing that you probably noticed here is this blue circle around it. This is an optional feature when you're using the radius. Pretty much what it's able to do is, as you see, display a circle around that center pin. And that's of a different amount of miles than what you specified for the actual radius. So my thought process with this is that, all right, we're displaying all of the pins within 5 miles so that Matt could potentially work on that. But since he's starting out at this point for his job, it's probably better for him to work at the ones that are closer by. So this circle is actually showing the ones that are within 2 miles from him, while still displaying that all of the pins that are outside of it as well, while still within those 5 miles. So this is also just another way to better visualize your data and see almost like if it's close or if it's maybe a little bit farther away, but you still want to know. Because who knows, maybe there's these 4 electric poles were already fixed. And now Matt comes back the next day and, okay, there's only these 2 pins that are left. There's nothing inside the circle. We'll send them out that way instead.
Glad I didn't ask, James, because that was going to be my next question. How are those pins outside of the ring?
Yep. Yeah, you specify them both differently. You could also specify them as the same value if you wanted to, but in this case, I wanted to show that they can be different values just to visualize the data a bit differently. So I think something else that we can do is figure out, okay, let's try to figure out where Matt should go to work. So pretty much we have these 4 poles here. I think these would probably be a good one because they're close enough to where he's starting at. And these 2 are kind of far away, especially from those other ones. So if I go here to these directions, you'll notice over here we have this new display on the side instead of showing all the locations now. I'm actually going to click on this checkbox here, this enable multi-select. So when I do this, you'll notice these 3 options come up here. This hand is just so that you can still move the map around. And then you have a square and then a freeform option to just draw whatever shape you want in case you need to exclude some pins. But for this, I'll just use the rectangle because it's a straightforward and easy one. I'll basically just cover all of the pins that I want to include for these directions. So now you'll see here, all right, number of unique addresses selected was 5. So now I'll just select the starting point, which in this case, it's this 100 Randall Road. right there, which is what Matt's starting at. And then I would think at the end of the day, Matt would probably go back to wherever he started, which in this case, it's probably going to be like an office or a warehouse or wherever, where he's going to start with getting the supplies and equipment that he needs. So he'll probably end up back there at the end of the day. So we'll set that as the destination as well. So now I'll just click on this get directions. And now it's actually going to show us what's the best way to get to all of those locations in one trip. So since it actually starts and ends at the same spot, you don't actually see the A. That's just because it's getting covered by the F for the final spot. But if you click on the A, you just notice that it does point to here. But pretty much it brings them all the way around to these 3 pins, then takes them back around to this last one, and then sends them back to where he started. And here it has pretty much written out all the exact spots and turns and that he would have to make to get to these places. We do also have here this open Google Maps. I know a lot of the trucking companies that we work with that deal with shipping and all that, those do tend to use this actually, where they'll select all the locations that they need, and then they'll put it into Google Maps because they're pretty much going straight from where they ran this map. And this is good too because it shows them their actual, like the traffic and stuff like that. So for example, if there was a lot of traffic on one of these roads, it would probably show that, okay, there's a different road that's better to take just so that you avoid the traffic.
Now, James, I kind of think I know the answer to this, but this works on mobile, right?
Yes.
Yep. I feel like that's very important for people to be able to go from Quickbase there on their cellular device, especially if they're going to be moving to have directions there. It's not printing out map quests anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't really need to, or I guess not everybody's also bringing a computer with them while they're driving. That's probably not very safe.
Right.
So being able to just put it on your phone and then use your phone like a GPS, like a lot of people normally do. So.
Right. And I mean, I could think of a ton of use cases of clients that we have. I mean, even if, this is going to be a weird one, but like, even if it was a garbage company and these are, you had all the pins for the different locations of the dumpsters that you were picking up from, to be able to do the best route every day, just to get to different places, just as a different, example than electric poles. It could be anything where you're hitting certain locations. If you're a delivery service, a food delivery service where you're delivering different fish to different markets, you want to have the best possible route to keep everything as fresh as possible. There's really infinite ways to apply this to whatever your business type is.
Yeah, definitely delivery. I feel like it's the most use out of this, but still, like I said, with the electricians, for example, when they're going to fix or repair these spots, that actually would allow them to just see where they're going pretty much for these. So a lot of use cases for showing these directions.
Cool. Well, James, when you were in here, I didn't want to ask you on the spot, but since we're back, if you hit directions again.
Yep.
For your starting position, I think I saw it before, but say you clicked on E for an employee.
Yep.
Right, you can set as origin.
Yes. Yeah, so this would actually be used if you're pretty much just going between 2 points. So for example, let's say Matt's only going to one place today, just because let's say he's doing a replacement for an electric pole as opposed to just a repair, because that's probably going to take all day if it's a replacement. So here he would just click on this pin, go to set as origin, and he can either then zoom out and find the next one. Technically, you could go back here, hit clear. That will resize it back to that initial size. And it does still keep that.
Holds that.
Yeah, it still holds those directions, which is nice. So then if we click on this one here, then you can set this one as the destination.
Right.
And then pretty much the same as the other one. When you hit get directions, it'll show you the best route for that. And then we also have the Google Maps version for like the live traffic. Actually, yeah, as you can see here.
That's pretty
There's a bit of
interesting.
traffic now on the way there.
Oh, that's good to show.
Mhm. So
Very cool.
yeah, so it's pretty similar. It's just a little bit of a different way to set it up if you're just going to a specific place as opposed to multiple places in one trip.
Right. Cool.
So something else that I did want to share with this, it's actually, so if I just close out of this real quick and this as well. Yeah, I'll just go back here. So with these actually, so I guess something else that we could do with this is that let's say, actually, no, I'll generate this map again. So let's say Matt went out and he fixed this electrical pole here.
Mhm.
So as you saw before, when I clicked on this click to view button here, it showed me the view form for this, but you can actually replace this button with a different link pretty much. So in this case, I actually updated it so that it's the edit record. So now, let's say it's the end of the day, and Matt finished repairing this electric pole. Well, since this is already in an edit record, we can change this to fixed, hit save and close, and now that's updated. I did also have on here a filter for this map so that if this, it's only going to show the electric poles if they are need repair or need replacement. So if they're fixed, they wouldn't be showing. So if I hit refresh here, we'll actually notice that this blue pin would go away and that these number of locations goes down to 6. So when I hit refresh, yeah, it's gone and now it says 6.
Cool.
So that's just also another way that people use it, just to only display the records that they need to see. Because, for example, if you're going to send somebody out to do a repair or something like that, you're probably going to want them to only see the ones that need repairs.
Right.
You don't necessarily need to see all of the ones that are working properly and don't have any need for that. So
Now, James, I'm going to ask you a question that's going to kind of put you on the spot here. So bear with me.
that's fine.
But if you go back to the Quickbase app,
Mhm.
now typically with this, we're doing the setup with the client. What would you guesstimate as the learning curve to utilize this? You know, in a real life example, say it was, you know, the garbage truck example. You know, what would you need in place to make this work? Would you need addresses and latitude and longitude? Would you need, you know, the legend fields? Like, what types of fields would people need to make this work in the best way?
Yeah, so pretty much, I guess, like from the client's standpoint of like data and stuff like that, what they would need, I think at a minimum would actually just either be an address field or a latitude and longitude field. Because kind of like I was displaying here, on this map, if you noticed here, we have the address.
Right.
That's pretty much how we figured out, okay, that's where we put the pin. But if you looked at some of these other ones with the electric poles, you actually might notice the address is blank because we didn't use an address.
Right.
We actually just used the latitude and longitude, which you can kind of see
Yep.
on the side here. So I think those two at like a minimum would be all that you would need. So as long as you have those informations, you could use QB maps.
Right.
If you didn't have that, it would also be difficult to plot a pin on a map if you don't know where it is.
Right. Right.
So,
And I guess for context, for those of you who were not on James's previous meeting with QB Maps when we did the installation, hey Justin, any chance you could throw that in the chat maybe?
Yep, I'll look for it right now.
You know, just like all of our other add-ons, QB Maps has an installation process that James did go over in full in actually a previous office hours. So this is kind of jumping in past that step, which I think is important to highlight the different use cases of once you have QB Maps in the actual application. Now, here's some things you can do with it.
mhm.
So for those of you who are on the call who may not know kind of where step A is, Justin, thank you. Just put it into the chat. you can definitely review that previous office hours, where James goes over exactly how to do that to kind of get to this point.
Mhm.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, I guess if anything, this is a good point just to ask if anybody here has any questions for any of the use cases that I've shown, or if they have questions of like their own potential use cases,
right,
if they want to know if that would be feasible with QB Maps.
right. Yeah, and I saw a couple people roll in after we started, so please feel free to put in the chat if you have any questions, or you can come off mute and jump in and ask a question. But James, this was definitely very informative for me too, because I love to see kind of what we can do with maps. And I feel like every time I watch you do something, I'm learning something new.
There is a lot that can be done with the QB Maps.
Right.
Honestly, there's probably still some use cases that clients are using that we don't even know about really. So
Right. Yeah, because just like all of our other add-ons, it comes down to your own Quickbase app and how you have your tables laid out and what your business does.
I actually have a question myself, James.
okay.
You were showing the employee location before. Is that something that was like plotted in advance, or like you're just showing the employee's current location and it changes as they're moving around? How exactly is that
So
happening?
yeah, in this case, I actually had it set up where it was using this office location field that I set up. We do actually have a way where we can show people's current locations. I guess I can kind of show that real quick. I did sort of set it up, but I might have to make a couple changes. Which I think just for this, if I change this show current location to true, and I have this set to show location, this would actually just show pretty much the location of whoever's running this map. So you'll notice that this will be a little bit different. So if I generate the map again, let me just refresh again just to make sure I got those changes. Yeah, so this is a different map with a different record. But as you can see here, we do have this current location right here. That's actually displaying pretty much the device's best estimate of where you currently are. This will depend on a lot of different things, such as the actual device you're using, as well as if you're surrounded by big buildings and stuff like that, because pretty much what we're doing is we're asking your device where you are. Normally you'll get like the pop-up saying that the add-on wants to use your current location. That's actually only if you have that show location in that the top part of that URL. So when you say yes, pretty much we just ask your device for the location. That can vary sometimes. And like I was saying, it also varies based on the device. So for example, I'm just using a desktop computer right now that doesn't have any GPS capabilities in it. So this one isn't very exact. But we do also have, or I guess if you're using a phone, those are typically a lot better. I know sometimes it has actually gotten very close to where it should be, maybe a couple of feet or yards away. So something else that we could do, I think there's one client who's doing something like this. So if I edit these, this URL again, I set some things up here where we're able to take that current location that's being displayed and actually upload that into Quickbase. So pretty much just these 4 parameters here are doing that. Pretty much just telling it where to upload all of that information into. We also display who the user was who clicked on the button. So I guess just to show that, what I'll do is I'll leave the latitude and longitude there. I'll clear out the user so that we can see that get updated. but you'll probably see that this value here does get updated. So what I'll do is I'll click on the button to generate the map. You'll see where that location was, and then I'll open up another tab here just to show that this latitude and longitude got updated. So I'll click on it. So pretty much originally it was using this employee location here just to show that here, but our current location was showing over here. So I guess it is good just for this use case to show the difference. But now these values should have been updated. So if I open up this tab again and you compare, you'll notice now that the user got filled in with my user and that latitude and longitude did get updated. So this is a good way just to track where the employee is and potentially just to know, okay, the employee is at the correct site because it's in the pretty close latitude and longitude wise. But now with this map, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to generate it again without deleting the other one. So now you'll notice here, it looks like that green E is gone, but it's actually just because it's in the same exact spot of the current location. So if I click on this, you'll notice that that's where that record was showing separately than the current location. I think if anything, actually what I'll do is, now that we have that, I'll remove the current location stuff.
And James, I just want to pause here while we're showing this. And I know we did in previous videos. I just sent the link of the formula URL parameters we have available. For those of you who don't, or maybe don't have another one of our add-ons, James, if you could just go back to that for a second, though. The actual generate map. Although this may seem incredibly intimidating, it really isn't. Everything is kind of laid out for you, and especially if you have experience with Quickbase formulas, this is quite easy to follow along with, and this is one of the things that gets generated with our setup process. So this is going to be created for you already, and what James is showing is kind of additional parameters to get these, kind of unlock these features that are all included. So if you're watching this video in the future, you want to make sure you go to our help site for QB Maps and look at the formula URL fields explained, so you can see how James was putting this in, as well as an example of how to put it in on your own side. If you ever have any questions on one of these parameters, please feel free to reach out to us, because this is definitely key to generating the map. And it's not as difficult as it may seem, so we're always happy to help and answer your questions. So I just thank you, James, for pausing and letting me say my spiel there. But
yeah, you're welcome. And yeah, it is good just to point that out, at least, because there definitely is a whole lot here that I put in, but pretty much everything that you see here is on that help site. So it is good to know that.
And I'll make sure for those watching this in the future that the link to what Matt is talking about is in the description of the video. Make life easy.
thank you, Justin.
No problem.
So yeah, just a quick update of what I actually did update in that URL. I pretty much reverted it back so that it's not showing the current location. And that was just to better see the actual address or the location. So yeah, now you're easily able to see that address has moved. So if we show, yeah, so the original one was over here, and now the new location is here where that current location was, if that makes sense. So this is one way that it can be used. I know what one of our clients does is that they basically use this where at the end of the day or whatever, let's say they worked at a whole bunch of different locations and they're planning out the day, the next trip for the morning. So they'll open up the QB Maps. It'll get their current location for where they were at the end of the day, so that then the next morning when they generate the map again, it'll be based off of that new location that they were at. So that's also good for like truckers. Sometimes you're staying overnight on the road because it's a really long trip. And that's a really good way of basically getting back to where you were as opposed to just having to try to calculate all of that stuff. Are there any questions with pretty much this whole user current location stuff?
I think you did a great job of explaining it, James.
Thank you. But yeah, so that was pretty much most of what I wanted to go over. There's some smaller stuff that might not need to really be discussed, such as like updating the filters to better use the correct pins. I did sort of go over that, where I had this map only showing the ones that weren't fixed, for example. So that's a good way to show only the pins that you really need. But besides that, I think I pretty much went over all of the use cases that I really wanted to show everyone.
Yeah. Well, hopefully those of you in this call and those in the future are able to replicate some of those. And again, if you need assistance, you can definitely reach out to us at support, or I actually do have James and I's emails up. You can always reach out to James and I, so we can get you up to speed with everything there. But James, I appreciate you. What an excellent host you are. What a soothing voice you have.
Thank you.
And at this time, it seems like we're pretty much all set. So we're going to give you guys about 20 minutes of your day back. We appreciate your time as always. We hope this was informative. If you have questions after, please feel free to reach out to myself or support or James, and I'll just throw my email in the chat. As always, thank you for attending, and we hope to see you all next week.